Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss BBIN, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal motor vehicle agreement. And in this context, we will discuss the possibilities in South Asia relating to India's economy, the South Asian economy and prosperity that can happen. Good evening Amlan, Hiva, Ashish, Kriti, Kim, everybody else watching offline, welcome to all of you. All right, let's begin this discussion. Now, in the beginning, we didn't have something called as BBIN. What we initiated was South Asian Growth Quadrangle, the association for 4 countries having Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal. This association was to be a pact for not only transport of people, transport of goods, logistics, but also many others. For example, water resource to be used optimally. Along with that, power connectivity, infrastructure to be created. I have explained this part previously that infrastructure can be of 2 kinds: physical infrastructure and social infrastructure. Physical infrastructure also of 2 kinds. One is energy infrastructure and the other one is the infrastructure for movement, right? And then we can also divide this as different kind, for example, digital infrastructure and physical infrastructure. Social infrastructure, for example, creation of schools, education, health facilities, giving skills. These are the kind of infrastructure that can be created. Now, there is an immense possibility for infrastructure creation amongst all the countries, and you would see that the kind of relationship that India wants to look at with the BBIN countries, BBN countries are creation of physical infrastructure, be it energy projects, hydel energy projects, solar energy projects, be it having road connectivity or multimodal connectivity with the countries. We will look at this possibility right now, and India is also assisting them in increasing their social infrastructure, right, empowering the nations. Now, in this regard, when we had initiated SAARC, we already knew that there were some components of SAARC that would not be functional, some component elements, integrated nation states. But then some countries were quite interested. So forming South Asian Growth Quadrangle was a possibility that was looked at in the year 1997. And as a part of this, BBIN MVA was also negotiated between countries: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal motor vehicle agreement. These 4 economies which have a sizable population, Bangladesh having almost 17 crore people, India having almost 140 crore people, and other 2 little smaller nations, absolutely true, but then still very influential. As very much pointed out in the comment section here, that smaller nations can also arm twist the bigger powers in the name of the regional hegemons. For example, India and China, good example of Maldives, example of Nepal, example of Sri Lanka, example of Bangladesh, right? All of them playing this, and now Solomon Islands as well, right? So China on one side and Australia and USA on the other side. So small islands play this game, but then it is good for their growth, right? Similarly, when this kind of association formulated, the idea was to project a sub-regional unity amongst country. Very, very good word that you could use everywhere, right? Sub-regional unity that could be projected for South Asian nations. Imagine the kind of projection India and Indian subcontinent would have had. Association of the 4 countries here: Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and India. This would have been an integrated whole. Now, presently, the kind of association that these nations have, the level of the inter-SAARC trade is not even 5% of the total trade that these nations carry, not even 5%. But when we look at the integration of economies of Southeast Asian nations, it is far, far better. It is to the tune of 25% of the total trade that they carry. 25% of the trade of the ASEAN countries, it is between the ASEAN members itself. And then little more with other countries close by: China, USA, India and other nations in the Middle East, etc. So the point is that the greater the economic participation, the greater the integration, the greater the association, the stronghold the association that will have. And India has been able to decently be successful with the initiation of BBIN motor vehicle agreement. Presently, Bhutan is not a part of it. Bhutan has chosen to be out of it because of environmental reasons, because of its own concerns about how development should be measured in a country. But a country like Bhutan, whose budget is completely based on what New Delhi passes, the maximum trading partner, India, the access to the whole world is through India, they will turn around and possibly look forward to some alternative solutions, possibly battery vehicles in the future, hydrogen fuel vehicles in the future. But then since their economy largely revolves around tourism, it's a good step. It's a role model step for the whole world that they have taken. That's great. And they are also an observer right now in the whole treaty, right? So right now, Nepal, India and Bangladesh will be a part of this treaty. And the idea is to have free movement of persons who are there for tourism, business activities, free movement of logistics and goods, products for trade activities amidst these countries. This is going to prosper the economies in these places. It is primarily because right now the situation is such that at the border junctions there are delays, there are the red tapeism, there are checks, there is corruption at the border, there is less transparency. But through passage of this motor vehicle agreement, the countries' transit between each other will be smoother than what is right now. It will be further made more easier with the help of automated systems. So integrated check post with automation will streamline the process. It will accelerate the movement of people and goods between these countries. It will make the ease of doing business further easier, right? So this is going to prosper the people in the area and the nations altogether. But you know what is the system right now? Right now it is not such. See, if a country like Nepal is not able to fund the projects, road projects, if Bangladesh is not able to fund certain projects of the highways, can India not help if it is helping India in the in India's passage, India's movement? Yes, India can help. Now, if you look at the movement of people from India, from one end of India to another end of India, if people want to move from one end to another end, they can move directly, provided Bangladesh provides this movement route to us, provided Bangladesh provides this access. The distance can be reduced almost 70%. Almost 70% if you want to move to Agartala from the other side, from the left side of the nation and crisscrossing Bangladesh. We would reduce the time taken, we would reduce the effort taken, the business, the finances, everything. Bangladesh also will get some chunk of finances for this. Absolutely. It will take some finances toll for movement of vehicles, but it will reduce the distance for India. If you know about Bina pole and the other pole, what is that named? Please put down in the comment section. There is a very beautiful transit possibility that happens between the northeast and the other segment of the country, right? But right now we are not able to do this because we did not have the project intact. We could not fund those particular projects, right? So issues could be like, for example, most of the trade getting through with congested roads. This is one right now. So no funding, right? The average speed of the trucks is very slow because of repeated number of checks, especially for those trucks which are from the different countries. Either there are two things that can be done. Either the goods can be transported to another truck which is of Bangladesh, or it can be used by the same nation, right? And more time taken for the goods to be traveled between two places in the same country. Right? Inadequate use of railways and waterways. Presently, the level of usage is such that waterways being the least used, and after that railways, and after that the roadways. And roadways happen to be the most expensive. What is required is to have a multimodal transport network between the nations. While we want to move from Kolkata to Agartala, if we want a simpler passage through Bangladesh, it would be 400 kilometers only. On the other hand, if you want to transit through Chicken's Neck, it becomes 1600 kilometers and also proportionally increases your time 3 to 4 times at least. So looking at this, if you want to cut down on red tapeism, if you want to cut down on trade cost, if you want to make the system automated, transparent and more efficient than before, if you want faster clearances, if we want South Asian economies to get integrated, then let's do this. Now have a look. Whenever I speak of the growth of Northeast region or any transport connectivity, I connect 3 pointers. I'm sharing the valuable input so that you use and remember it forever. See, there are three reasons why we have to focus on the BBIN corridor or growth of SAARC nations or growth of BIMSTEC. The reasons are very much simple. First, India's Act East policy, right, envisages that we first of all become friends with our neighborhood countries and then proceed towards further Southeast Asia. So Act East will begin from our neighborhood. This is one. Second, growth of Northeast, very prominent and important. If Northeast grows, then there will be further integration and nation building process will be there. And the third one is Act East, Northeast growth, and the third one is, what is that? Southeast and integration of the economies. Yes, integration of the South Asian economies. So we will have a better integration, better projection for the whole subcontinent. This will all get reflected through the economics that are happening in the Northeast area. That is why need further better integration, right? Just like what Europe has, just like what Southeast Asian nations have. So while Bangladesh can manufacture jute products, we can be the industrial setup for them. While Nepal can provide tourism facilities, India can be the hosting ground of people. Now simple example is, India hosts a number of diplomats from around the world. So for example, India would have maybe 150 plus nations having their diplomats posted in New Delhi and possibly in other cities like Mumbai, consulates. But Nepal cannot afford this. Nepal cannot provide this much space, nor those countries want to have embassies set up there. So there are many nations which have a embassy set up in Delhi, and people from Sri Lanka, people from Nepal, people from Bangladesh, they come to India to be able to obtain visas for them. So India can be hosting ground for what happens in Nepal, for adventure activities, adventure tourism in Nepal. And that's what actually reality is. Not all the countries connect flight to Nepal. So you look, there is a possible level of integration between the economies provided the stakeholders want to do this, right? And such examples will be very, very fruitful for you. Similarly, examples of trade movement. Have a look at the GDP of the economies. India has a humongous share of around 80% of GDP, and rest of the other countries have a smaller share. So India already being treated as a larger brother, but then India needs to follow the Gujarat doctrine of being a more generous brother, one who can help the other nations. See, the problem or a good part about a country like India is this, that we are at the middle of the complete South Asia, middle of it. That means any nation to interact with the other nation, India will be one of the grounds where they integrate their supplies, where they integrate their resources. So when Bangladesh wants to interact with Bhutan, India will be the middle player here. When Nepal wants to interact with Bhutan or with Bangladesh, they will have to have India as a stakeholder. So on one hand, many political parties from the other countries, they oppose India or look at India from the perspective of enforcer. On the other hand, India has always been extending the hand of support, and that's what is required, because on the other hand, right now Sri Lanka has FDIs from China, maximum number of FDIs from China, many number of projects running from China. So does Nepal, and Bhutan won't have. But Myanmar, again, if you are looking at the editorials, if you are going through them, I've been discussing how the economy of Myanmar, how the economy of Pakistan and Sri Lanka all have dipped down after association with China. So presently Myanmar's economy, 70% of the trade that happens from Myanmar to China, it is only that of wood, and that too especially teak wood, right? China is the largest trading partner for Myanmar in the last 3 to 4 decades after Myanmar initiated its policy of military coups and militarism. So the point is, these countries need to be associated, and India is one of the important stakeholders for this, right? For increased association. There are further more associations that can be possible. So one of them is the Kala Dan multimodal transport network between India and Myanmar, and further reaching the northeast area. So one could be BBIN corridor, or the other one could be goods originating from the east of India, for example Kolkata, they can be sent over from the inland waterway to the seas waterway to Sitwe port, and from Sitwe there is a road connectivity, and after that there will be rail connectivity, and then you can reach Mizoram as well, northeast state. So this is called as Kaladan multimodal project. Similarly, we also have a tripartite highway between countries, tripartite highway, and this again from More in Manipur, and from here reaching out to Myanmar and further getting into Thailand. And once we get into Thailand, there are other prospects available in Laos, Vietnam and Cambodia further down south. So this all leads to India's growth, the growth of Northeast. What are we looking at? See, these are competing economies. One must remember this. But then even in competition, India can learn from these economies, right? India can integrate itself further better to become a part of the value chain, right? So if it is, if the economy is that of rice, rice processing. If the economy is that of wheat, by the way, India is a wheat exporter destination and these are wheat importing countries. There could be further association. If the economy is about semiconductor manufacturing, which is going to be a potent market in the future, India can be a stakeholder. What about providing of IT services? What about defense exports? Yeah, right. If we are doing all this, we can do that for these countries as well. What about helping them provide Ayush? Isn't it? So explore that possibility, but then that possibility can only be utilized provided we have these kind of networks. So these three important networks become the pillar for development of Northeast area, integration of India with South Asia, Southeast Asia, therefore become very relevant. All right. Now, so understanding the prospects is very important. These are the prospects, but there are challenges as well. There are challenges between initiating these kind of projects. So Bangladesh-Bhutan-India-Nepal corridor is the first one that we are looking at, and this is important to cut the red tapeism, reduce delay, make it more efficient, digitize the whole services, has economic benefits to integrate the nations, right, and have better integrated economies with themselves. See, what is required is with the same set of people, with the same set of minds, one can make rigor in the economy. That can happen once we understand that people need to be skilled, infrastructure needs to be developed, there needs to be connectivity between people, whether digital or physical connectivity. If that is done, something will automatically happen. There will be mobilization. People might even play football games, and that will generate economy, right? Just like cricket is doing right now, football as well will do in the Northeast and the other states, in the countries around, right? So what are the issues here? Infrastructure gap, right? So limited movement of people, right? Skewed trade balance. India is the one which is providing the goods and services. India is not recipient. So these countries, they are largely recipients of India's goods and services. That's why not being liked very much, right? So how do we give them the opportunity to initiate? Through more trade, through more activism, through their activism because of infrastructure development. All right. Issue of political origin, for example, illegal migrants, and then there is security implications. They are all, of course, there. So integrating with rail, inland waterways, roadways, all of them together, and the seaways also, that is required. Improving heterogeneity, right, within the BBIN groups, national security. These are the various ways in which India can look at the possibilities of development. So look east or act east policy, development of northeast region, and integration of the SAARC or BIMSTEC economies, BBIN economies. That's the way forward for the future, right? Now, what did we understand here are some aspects of BBIN and this regional grouping. So the possibilities are beyond physical connectivity. So what are the possibilities? So one is physical connectivity, energy connectivity, people movement, exchange, culture, very similar, right? And the further possibilities in the region that include Kaladan highways, that include the tripartite highway project, and that also includes the BBIN. All right, so 3 projects of relevance. The significance of all these 3 are summed up in India's Act East policy, growth of Northeast, and further integration. SAARC is a good example, lesser integration. BIMSTEC is a good example, only 7% integration of the economies. And ASEAN, and a successful example is European Union. We also studied what are the opportunities for the countries. We understood the challenges between them, and We know that this is only the way forward, right? To be associated further. So that's what we understood in today's featured news on the motor vehicle agreement. All right. Hi Gopal, good evening. Now, if you like this initiative, shower some love through likes, comments, and shares. Questions, please put them down. Suggestions and doubts, we'll entertain them, provided you speak about them in the comment section. Thank you for participating. Thank you, everybody. And these items are right now fresh in your mind, and this is quite decently sufficient for attempting an examination like UPSC. All you want to do is just prepare the notes very quickly so that it retains in your mind, and that is the key to success. Thank you for participating. I will see you all tomorrow evening for current affairs and feature news discussion. Thank you, and keep watching the editorial discussions as well, which are posted separately. So Hima says, sir, China, Indian Navy give names like this. Okay, Hima says, China provides weapons to Myanmar army. Okay, they train their army, air force and navy. They have naval installations in Myanmar. How can India cope with that? Yeah, just like India is, see, China has these installations in Sri Lanka as well, right? So yes, that is absolutely true that India has had some sour relations with Myanmar because of democracy. Aung San Suu Kyi, she has studied in India. She stayed in India for a decent while, right? While there was a military coup, she was a very young girl. She was in India for a very long period until democracy was restored, and now she's again captivated. India has opposed this, and India learnt it the harder way to understand that the internal systems could be different. Even if the regime in Myanmar is autocratic or it is dictatorial, all we need to do is empower the people. We cannot oppose that regime. The idea, that's what I have been looking at from the editorial's perspective, is that if we raise the awareness amongst people, if we raise the level of understanding amongst people, or if we at least broker the release of the opposition, that is Aung San Suu Kyi, then there will be slow and steady mobilization. The outright opposition of Myanmar is not engaging with the country in the Southeast Asia, right? So that's what China doesn't do. China doesn't engage with the internal structure of the polity, of the governance, right? They just engage with the nation they want to engage and have their partnerships, have their way. So India needs to understand that if Myanmar is going through autocracy, militarism, military coup, and it might go on like this for maybe a couple of decades to come, we still need to engage with Myanmar. And when we need to engage, we will respect their autonomy, we will respect what's happening in the country, and we will still understand how to engage with them, possibly provide goods, services, right? We are engaging with China. No, China is a one-party system. Is it completely democratic? No. Are the premiers in China elected because I want them? Can anybody opt for becoming the president in China? No. There are only few choices available to the whole population in the country. There are 5 choices by Communist Party of China, and you can elect one of them. Is it democracy? I don't agree, right? But then India's highest trade, the most trade relations that India shares is with China, right? So when we are engaging with China, why not Myanmar, right? So the point is, China will learn to trade with India's participation also, provided Myanmar agrees. For that agreement to happen, Myanmar needs to understand that India is not opposing that nation. That's why USA says to India, be warned, don't have Myanmar in the BIMSTEC economies, right? But then India said, you don't tell us what we have to do. We will do what is required. All right. Babani says, okay, all right, no problem, Babani. Thank you, everybody. Ashish, Kriti, Amlan, Hima, Kim, their questions, please put them down. Interesting question. So we'll get back to you. All right. Thank you for participating, and good night, everybody.